We see basic research in universities, mostly. There may be some, I don't know what they do in universities, maybe they don't do that either. But maybe some very large corporations do basic research, and probably a fair number of corporations do applied research, especially large ones. But what we see, most of the claims here in Calgary are for experimental development done by any size of corporations, any individual, any partnership, working toward the advancement in some technology that underlines their product or process. We're not looking at new products, we're not looking at new processes unless there was some advance in the underlying technology that occurred at the same time to develop that. There's also a fourth category of expenditures and work that we allow under our program, and that's called support activities in these 8 categories. Now those categories by themselves are not scientific research and they're not experimental development. But if they are in support of and commensurate with the needs of your scientific research or your experimental development, you can claim this work under our program as well. This work and these costs can be claimed as well. But it is restricted to those 8 categories of work. Now we, being the CRA of the federal government, aren't all that generous, so we have outlined some categories of work that we do not support under this program. And here they are. And they're kind of directed at non-scientific research and non-experimental development is what we're trying to get at. And typically in typically in Calgary we would see that exclusions usually would fall into prospect exploring or drilling for petroleum or natural gas and commercial production. If you have a chemical plant and you're a commercially producing chemical plant and you're doing something to improve your product, if that something is experimental development, we won't necessarily allow you to claim all the costs of operating your chemical plant. We'll be trying to separate the cost between what you're doing for commercial purposes and what you're doing for the experimental development. And we'll only be assisting in your funding of the experimental development costs. Now these are the eligibility requirements. Kind of, and these are go hand in hand with the work described. The work must be a systematic investigation carried out by means of experimentation or analysis. And there must be some field of science or technology involved. And you must be trying to achieve a technological advance, or you must be trying to advance scientific knowledge. Typically, when I talked about experimental development, that's the area where you're trying to achieve a technological advance. In basic or applied research, you're trying to advance scientific knowledge. When you make a claim for this, you must first have a good idea of what your project is, what your eligible work is done in the year. And then you must be able to identify the costs of that work done in the year. And because it's associated with your tax return, it goes hand in hand with your tax return and your tax filing, and it's on a year-by-year basis. Pardon? Okay, thank you. This is how you make a claim. You file the correct forms. We love forms. More forms. You file those forms with your income tax return. And you have to file them within 18 months of your fiscal year end. Now those forms will detail, they will have a description of the work you did in the year and what the projects are, and they will include information on the costs you incurred in the year for those projects. These are the categories of costs that you could claim. Employees who are directly engaged in doing the basic applied research, employees who are directly engaged in doing experimental development. If you hired someone to do that work on your behalf, you can claim them as an SR&ED contractor. If you consumed materials in your research, you can claim those materials. If you had to lease equipment to do your research, you can claim that. If you had another category of costs that we call overhead, and those costs were directly related to your research and incremental to your research, you can claim those costs. And third-party payments. Typically we see third-party payments made by corporations to universities and colleges to support research done in those organizations. And if you have purchased equipment to do your research, and you intend to consume that equipment in your research, you can claim the cost of that equipment. Here we are, the Prairie's information, Prairie's information line, phone number there. If you want information about the return, there's my name and phone number. If you want information, phone me. You can get this information from the SR&ED website as well. Where they have, if you go to the SR&ED section, there's contact information. And please feel free to phone us up at any time if you have any questions or concerns or want to know more about the program, want us to come out and talk to you about it. We're happy to do that.